I can't remember a freshman who I've been maybe more interested to see how he works out. He pretty much said he could be better than Julio Jones. No one ever accused me, no coach, you could ask any coach who I ever covered at Western Kentucky, and they will never accuse me of being a homer.
This episode of Beat Everyone is brought to you by Broadway Joe's Fantasy Sports. Inspired by football legend Joe Namath, embrace the thrill of daily fantasy sports like never before in an app coming this fall.
Welcome to Beat Everyone. I am Ben Flanagan, and folks, it's here. It's finally college football season, and Alabama's going to play its season opener on Saturday at 6 p.m. when they host Western Kentucky inside Bryant-Denny Stadium. And here to break down Alabama's first game and what will be a historic season in Tuscaloosa is the perfect person, especially for this week. AL.com Alabama football writer and columnist Michael Casagrande. And Michael, first off, it's the dawn of a new season in college football, a new era in Tuscaloosa. So many questions ahead of what will be, like I said, another historic year. But I think that everybody wants to know this thing. And so we're going to start with it. It's the burning question on the minds of Alabama fans. What the hell even is a Hilltopper?
I knew where we were. I knew before you even started. As a Western Kentucky graduate, proud Western Kentucky graduate, but an objective journalist. I mean, if we're asking what is a Hilltopper, that's a different question from what is a Big Red.
Well, you're stalling, so it tells me that you also don't know what a Hilltopper is.
Well, a Hilltopper, I mean, that's the campus is located on a hill. It's a huge hill. Okay. So the top of the campus is what the Hilltopper. So the Hilltopper is the nickname. The Big Red is the mascot. The Big Red grimace looking. Yes.
Blob.
It's meant to be in your own mind what you think it is. It's not meant to represent anything. It's not representing the school. It doesn't look like the campus. It doesn't look like anything. It's just meant to be kind of what in your own mind. And it's a conversation generator. Obviously, we're sitting here talking about it right now. It was a big part of ESPN SportsCenter commercials for years. I didn't see Big Al on any of those, I guess. So maybe it was effective in its ambiguity.
Yeah. So, I mean, melted candle, whatever. I mean, just a construct of our imagination. Big Red is whatever we perceive it to be. Or whatever we project it to be, right?
Correct.
It's really more of an abstract thing. Well, Exactly. It sounds super accessible, something that everybody can understand, but we can switch gears to football here if you want to.
Well, it's sort of like an elephant representing the state of Alabama. You know, it's very apropos of because you see elephants everywhere in Tuscaloosa, don't you?
You can Google what the metaphor means. It's pretty simple, fairly black and white. In Western Kentucky's case, not so much, but that's okay. I respect Big Red. I respect the Hilltoppers, as they're called, and we're going to find out a lot on Saturday. And I know everybody's looking forward to it strictly because it's football. And Michael, the first thing I want to start with here is Alabama hired him January 12th, just 3 days after Nick Saban shocked the college football world by retiring after 17 years as head coach in Tuscaloosa. We've had press conferences and interviews and practices and office renovations, everything but actual games. And on Saturday, Kalen DeBoer will finally coach his first game as the Alabama head coach. And I mean, the reason that this is a historic season, for one, is it marks the first game of the post-Nick Saban era in Tuscaloosa, arguably the greatest coaching run in college football history. I mean, I don't have to list all the championships and All-Americans and draft picks. We all know that. But he created an expectation not only for how the team would perform each year, but for how this program would operate. So what do you think are the earliest signs that we are in a post-Saban world now with Alabama as they get ready to kick off their first game without him?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And it's a good point that this has been, feels like the longest almost 9 months of, football time between the hiring and the first game, where we can finally see some football. We can finally see what the new product looks like, because it's been brutal to have to deal in hypotheticals and to try to read tea leaves and recruiting this and that. What is this team going to be? And it will have a different look, I believe. I mean, the offense will be structured somewhat differently. Defense will be simplified in a sense where it won't be the same Mensa level requirements to be a defensive back in Nick Saban's very complicated defense. So there will be some visible changes.
Yeah, and Michael, I mean, with DeBoer, we've learned a lot about him, and people have obviously seen him coach for Washington and all the other schools, but now he's at Alabama. At his press conference on Monday, he was talking about first game jitters, like what types of those he might experience. And again, like we're about to finally see it out on the football field. Like what are you looking forward to specifically about Kalen DeBoer, what you've learned, what you've heard about in terms of how he runs a team, how his offense looks on a field? What are you looking forward to specifically as they actually get out there on the field and do it?
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how the offense looks, the structure of the passing game, how different that might look from the Saban years from last year. I know that he was known for some short passing game at Washington, but Penix also was known to let it loose and threw a good deep ball, which clearly is what Milroe is best at, throwing deep.
Yeah, well, Michael, I mean, I want to follow up with Jalen Milroe right there because, I mean, a huge storyline this season is him returning as the starting quarterback, and he had somewhat of a rocky start to the 2023 season. I mean, he's the guy, he loses to Texas, he gets benched at South Florida, he wins back the job, and he has a really strong finish to the season. And after Saban left, he stayed, and he and Kalen DeBoer appear to be a good fit. And Jalen's public persona is that he's a really likable guy, and he's also a very coachable player. He wants to learn, he wants to improve. And entering the season, there was little doubt that he would be named the starter again. But Michael, under DeBoer, what have we already learned about Milroe's growth as a quarterback, and what's on the line for him in 2024?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting because we haven't seen that much. You've seen A-Day under DeBoer, and it's always questionable whether or not how much they show publicly on A-Day as to what he can do. I'm very interested to see this first few games, to see the progress of where he's come, his ability to throw those short and intermediate passes, how much they've really worked on that, because I think that was always kind of an issue. Coming off last season, people remembering the Georgia game, certain moments, I mean, obviously the end of the Iron Bowl, they're iconic moments that people stand out in people's minds that set a higher bar for him. He's, in those top 7 or 8 Heisman Trophy odds for the season. So
we spoke to AL.com's Alabama beat writers Matt Stahl and Nick Kelly on a recent episode, and they opened our eyes to a lot of players to watch after fall camp. But somebody that we barely discussed was Ryan Williams. He was obviously a prize recruit out of Saraland, Alabama. He decommitted when Saban retired. He recommitted when DeBoer was hired. And I know fans will be eager to see him this year. So what have you heard about him out of fall camp? And do you think we'll see him on Saturday against Western Kentucky?
Yeah, I mean, there's been nothing to tamp down any expectations about him. I know the coaches, coordinators, DeBoer, they've all had good things to say about him. For me, I can't remember a freshman who I've been maybe more interested to see how he works out, mainly from the time I talked to him when he won the Mr. Football Award in Montgomery, and I was asking him about so many people were talking about him and Julio Jones and the expectations that Julio Jones came here with, and that, he pretty much said he could be better than Julio Jones, and was not afraid to set that bar incredibly high for himself. And just kind of taken it back from somebody. He was a toddler maybe when Julio Jones. He never got to fully see the phenomenon that was Julio Jones coming to Alabama, fully developed. Looked like he could have gone straight to the NFL if he was allowed to. So to put himself into that level of obviously physically a different body type, different dynamic than Julio Jones, but for anyone to think that he could, to put the expectations on himself to be better than Julio Jones as a freshman, I'm really interested to see him play, probably more so than any freshman in a long time.
Alabama is a 30-plus point favorite at home this Saturday. And look, these games can be really tricky because you get to see them in action, but it's obviously not against SEC caliber opponent. It isn't the same as those neutral site games that Saban loved to play and open previous seasons with. I mean, this is more akin to Alabama's 2023 opener when they were 40-point favorites against Middle Tennessee, a game that they won by 49 points. So What does a team like Alabama want to accomplish with a game like this? I mean, other than winning, obviously, like what would they consider a success and what would they consider the alternative?
Well, yeah, I mean, winning is important, and nothing is guaranteed. I mean, Georgia Tech, Florida State didn't think they were going to lose to Georgia Tech on Saturday, so not saying an upset is possible, but just like a clean operation, turnover free, creating maybe some turnovers, just a fluid machine where you can feel good about it is probably what fans are wanting to see. You don't want to have a herky jerky. You're not going to empty the playbook on Saturday, but you just want to look efficient. You want to look ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, disaster would be losing the game, right?
Yeah.
Which, again, like you said, it's unlikely, but fans remember, I mean, 2007 wasn't that long ago in Nick Saban's first season. They lost to Louisiana Monroe. I don't think anybody necessarily is expecting that. That Alabama team was not nearly as talented as this Alabama team. And DeBoer is obviously a great coach who has won everywhere that he's gone. But I think that it's also fair to anticipate a rocky start out of the gate, right? For any first year coach in transition, right? From one great coach to another. So,
any season opening game, like it does nothing, just even if they are rough on the edges coming out of the gate, like it's not necessarily because of DeBoer or because, what is going to get the blame for certain things. I mean, there were early season games that Alabama didn't look great under Nick Saban, and it wasn't because of Nick Saban. So, there's so many factors that can go into it. And it's easy to slot something into this happened because of this or that.
Yeah, but I mean, Alabama, if they're up by a touchdown at halftime, you're going to have people sweating in Bryant-Denny Stadium, where they're going to start thinking, oh no, the Saban era really is over. Right. Alabama is different now. And it is different. Like, it's going to be different no matter how you look at it. It's just going to be a different product altogether, even though there are obviously remnants and actual people who are still part of this program and were part of what Saban was doing as recently as last year. So, I do wonder, though, Michael, like, do you think that there is anything Western Kentucky can do, I guess, to sort of make it interesting? Is there like a weapon or a name that Alabama fans may hear repeated over and over on Saturday to where it's like, these guys are actually fairly talented? Like, do they have any guys who might play at the next level even?
Well, I mean, there's some names that you're going to recognize. The TJ Finley, I mean, they haven't named a quarterback, I don't believe, but TJ Finley was the quarterback at both LSU and Auburn, and is a transfer who's now at Western Kentucky. He's in a competition right now with the freshman who came off the bench last year in the bowl game and threw for almost 400 yards in the Hilltopper's third straight bowl game. Not many teams have won 3 straight bowl games, so just going to put that out there. But yeah, Coy Moore was a receiver at Auburn, was at LSU. So there's some SEC level talent on this team. There are names that you will recognize. There's some local guys from Gardendale, from Ramsey High. There are a couple fairly local players on this team. Will Friend is the offensive coordinator, a former Alabama offensive lineman who was at Georgia, Tennessee. He coached all kinds of places. So there are some names. Willie Tagert Jr. is on the team, former Florida State coach, the son of Florida State coach, and was a star at Western Kentucky in the 90s. There are names that and there's talent. There's a lot of guys. I mean, I didn't count them up, but SEC transfers from Texas A&M, a lot of big schools. So these aren't guys who are going to necessarily all be just wide-eyed by Bryant-Denny Stadium. Some of them have been there before.
Yeah, I mean, TJ Finley, he didn't have the best game, but he obviously made things interesting in that 2021 Iron Bowl, which took a miracle, really, for Alabama to come back and win a Heisman Trophy worthy drive from Bryce Young to end that game. TJ Finley was almost the winning quarterback in the Iron Bowl just a couple of years ago. So I wonder, did you have Willie Tagert posters like up in your room growing up, Michael?
I didn't grow up a Western Kentucky fan, and I don't think I've ever really been accused of being when I was a student, I was never accused of being.
So your dorm room then? Okay.
Yeah, no, I was never. I was an objective journalist, and I remain an objective journalist. Whether I was covering that team, this team, doesn't matter. I'm objective, and no one ever accused me. No coach, you could ask any coach who I ever covered at Western Kentucky, and they will never accuse me of being a homer.
Well, Michael, finally, we're only days away now, and you've done this for several years now. What about you? Like, what are your burning questions for Saturday and beyond? Like, what do you consider right now the primary storyline for this Alabama team under this new coach and Kalen DeBoer, and how do you think that first chapter might play out on Saturday?
Yeah, that's a good question about what is my big question. I mean, I guess the development of Milroe and, seeing how different is his game, how different will they utilize him, how different will the passing game look, what kind of route trees are they using, who are their primary weapons, who are they looking at, running back, there's guys who are Jalen Milroe, wasn't a primary, was third off the bench. Justice Haynes, wasn't used very much in the past, but it's also seen as a strength of this team. So I'm curious to see how much the run pass combination, the split between those two, it's going to be very interesting to me. Defensively, the complexity of it. Can you see a more simplistic thing? Will be fewer breakdowns in coverage, those kinds of things. Curious to see the kicking game. Got the Lou Groza Award player from Miami, Ohio. That's a big place to a big shoes to fill with Will Reichard. Because you can never overlook kicking and punting. It's always, I'm known for being a big appreciator of the special teams, so I'll be watching that as well.
Yeah, I mean, James Burnip had a good season last year, said to have had a great fall camp and offseason this year. So Alabama appears to be stacked in special teams, and obviously the now controversial recruitment of the new kicker from Miami of Ohio. Well, Michael, look, I'd say best of luck, but like you said, I know that you're a professional. I've never seen you thrown out of a press box before, but look, I mean, we're going to witness history on Saturday, so I guess anything could happen. So I'll just say good luck in week 1 in this season. I know we'll see you again really soon, but thanks for doing this.
Yep. Good luck to everybody. Good luck to all the teams. Good luck to everybody staying healthy, because at the end of the day, these are college students out trying to get an education and play football on Saturdays, and that's what it's all about. Who wins or loses is not important to me. It's all about having fun.
Yeah, wise words from Michael there. So listen to them. You can find Beat Everyone on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And once again, for Michael Casagrande, I'm Ben Flanagan. We'll see you next time.
This episode of Beat Everyone is brought to you by Broadway Joe's Fantasy Sports. Inspired by football legend Joe Namath, embrace the thrill of daily fantasy sports like never before in an app coming this fall.